The pain. It's here again.
Alright, well, the hospital was attacked.
Good evening, Mr.
Evening.
Can you tell me anything about recent events at the hospital?
Before the shouts and the noises, I think I heard whispers coming from the stairs. 2 voices, maybe more.
Did you recognize the voices? What did they say?
I couldn't hear. Sounded like they were arguing or something.
Goodbye.
You discuss on every street corner.
Good evening. I'll leave you.
My blood boil with the fever.
Good evening, Nurse.
Good evening, Doc.
What can you tell me about the recent events in the hospital?
That Mr. Hampton killed Miss Jones in her room, then ran away.
And did you see all this?
No. I was working by the tents when it all happened. I only entered the room when they asked me to clean up the blood.
Where is Miss Jones's body?
I don't know. I'd imagine the morgue. It all happened so quickly.
Did you see Sean Hampton leave the hospital?
I think I saw a silhouette exiting the hospital gates after the shouting started. At first I thought it was someone who was just scared, but... well, maybe it was him.
Goodbye, Nurse. Good evening, Dr. Tipp.
Dr. Reed.
Can you tell me anything about the recent commotion in the hospital?
It's a tragedy, pure and simple. The hospital is meant to be a safe haven to all. We failed the people who trusted us with their care.
Do you think I should not have brought Mr. Hampton back here?
It's not your fault. You rescued that poor soul. It was the Christian thing to do. But we should have noticed his instability.
Goodbye. Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
Everybody's afraid. Death has always been a frequent visitor. But murder? How can we cope with that?
As a nurse at this hospital, it is your duty to deal with these things as best you can.
Yeah. Until it's my turn to have blood spread.
Goodbye. Hello.
I'm a Turk.
Why do you stay here now that Mr. Thatcher's back?
It's complicated. Since the war, Oswald's been really nervous with the idea of entering any hospital. And me, I've got my own issues.
Can you speak about them?
Rats, sir. Even seeing one, they turn me. Just want to run. It's that fear that stopped me from going after Oswald when he left.
What can you tell me about the war, Mr. Blight? If you want to speak about it, of course.
War was... well, you know, sir. The stench of death everywhere. Your mates lying bleeding in the mud. Just praying to make it through and get home. Bloody nightmare.
Did you know Oswald Thatcher before the war?
No. We met in the battlefield. I think we're in the same boat to France. We've stuck together ever since.
I fought in France, too. I served as a field surgeon, but it was not uncommon to repel an assault, especially at night.
Yeah. The first time I was wounded, I had to protect the infirmary from hostiles. Twice.
You are always welcome at the Pembroke Hospital. As a former officer, I'll be honored to welcome a fellow veteran.
I'm not giving up on bringing Oswald back to the hospital. I just need to convince him that he needs some help.
Perhaps he needs to reach that decision by himself.
Could you speak to him? He doesn't usually listen to doctors.
What caused your phobia of rats, Newton?
It happened last year following an artillery attack. I was trapped for 2 days in a hole under 2 dead soldiers. And there were rats.
Go on.
It started eating me as soon as I dozed. Gnawing at my ears, with fingers, lips. Couldn't move. Couldn't call for help.
I see.
No, you don't. You have no idea what it is to wake up buried under bodies. Fucking vermin eating your flesh. Oswald. He found me and saved me.
Goodbye, Mr.
This city is... more peaceful without the bombs, but no less dangerous.
Hello again.
Yes, this...
Why were you locked in that sewer? What happened?
I went by the canal after an argument with a friend. Got chased by these fucking wankers and had to barricade myself in, despite my claustrophobia.
Tell me about your claustrophobia. Has anyone given you an official diagnosis?
That's what the bloody doctors said. But I don't want to go to a hospital to get checked again. I'll deal with it my own way.
Why did you run? What was the reason for your argument?
Newton wanted me to go to a hospital, but I can't stand being closed in. Makes me feel like I'm suffocating.
Mr. Thatcher, do you have a job?
No. Since I came back from the war, I spent most of my time and energy just trying to forget.
I understand what you mean. I was a soldier too.
No. Nobody can truly understand what I've gone through.
Oswald, why did you not go to the Pembroke Hospital to seek medical help?
I don't trust doctors. All they care about is their careers and processes. I won't be locked in any room again, by anyone.
Your fear of being trapped is not going to go away by itself. You need professional help.
I've seen enough butchers in white coats to last a lifetime. Hospitals reek of chemicals and death. What I need is fresh air.
Do you want to talk about why you have this fear of being enclosed, Mr. Thatcher?
No, I really don't.
An irrational fear like yours is usually rooted in a specific event. Perhaps it would help to talk about it.
Well, Doctor, take a guess then, if you're so interested in my case.
Perhaps you were trapped or locked in somewhere as a child. The horror of war could have brought this memory back to the surface.
Are you joking? I grew up on a farm, had a bloody fantastic childhood.
Goodbye. Good evening.
Good evening, Doctor.
What can you tell me about the recent...
Someone killed Miss Jones in her room, and Mr. Hampton's gone missing. Doesn't take a genius to piece it together.
You don't seem shocked by any of this.
Why should I be? Whoever did this must be long gone by now. And besides, you got rid of the old bag.
Why do you have such a mediocre reputation among your colleagues, Milton?
Fuck them. Nobody knows the horrors I've seen since working here. This city was sick long before the epidemic, Dr. Reed.
I know it's a difficult task, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the job you are paid to do?
I've seen babies left to die while their brothers were properly fed. Underage girls and boys sold to all manner of perverts.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. We lack words. So excuse me if I don't look on the bright side of it.
What's going on between you and Nurse Hawkins?
Pippa's tired. Tired of all this shit. Tired of all those corpses piling up. She's as depressed as I am.
You do realize you could both get fired. Hospital staff are not meant to have intimate relationships with one another.
Come on, Dr. Reed. Do you know how many rules are broken in this hospital every day just to keep it running? There's nothing wrong with what we're doing.
During the war, I witnessed a few couples just like you come together in difficult circumstances. It can be very damaging.
Maybe you're right. But we support each other. And that's all that matters.
Do you know that Nurse Hawkins is thinking of leaving the hospital?
That's not a surprise. We've talked about it already.
Does it not bother you?
Sometimes I think she may be right. We should run away while we can. Question is, where can we go? Where is it safe?
I'd like...
Wise choice.
Good evening, Nurse Hawkins. Good...
I'm quite busy.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
Nothing like this would have happened if we'd had enough staff and proper shifts.
So you don't think the blame is ours?
We all hold fast here, Dr. Reed. Our methods may differ, but we are all trying to make a difference.
Thank you.
I will not let you down. I'm all right.
Good evening.
Don't waste your time with me.
What can you tell me about the recent...
It's a disgrace. How on earth can patients be attacked in their own rooms?
Goodbye, Mrs. Good evening.
I'm okay.
What can you tell me?
I heard shouting coming from the first floor. I was asleep when it started.
I have to...
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
As for me,
I'm quite...
What can you...
Nothing.
So you...
We all...
Thank you for... Good evening, Miss...
Good evening.
Please, tell me about the recent commotion.
I heard Miss Jones call for help from her bedroom. There were some loud noises, like people fighting. All of a sudden, it went quiet. And then a nurse started screaming.
Do you know who the nurse was?
Not sure, but I think it was Nurse Hawkins.
Goodbye for now.
Always knew the words to calm me. As for me, what a blundering idiot.
Good evening.
And good evening to you.
Can you tell me anything about the recent...
I'm sure it was not your fault, Dr. Reed.
My fault? What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. It's just... I heard it was you who brought the murderer inside our walls. But you couldn't know, could you?
What do you think of Dr. Ackroyd's aversion to modern medical methods?
It's a shame he's so narrow-minded. Dr. Swansea taught me that science is about exploring uncharted territory. I'm convinced that's true.
With the influenza and all that's going on, you should put your differences aside, don't you think? Why is it so difficult to work together?
I believe that if Dr. Ackroyd had been the one to discover the transfusion process, he would be the first to recommend its use.
So you believe it's just a question of jealousy and pride?
Dr. Ackroyd is as proud as he is blinded by his obsolete concept of medical science.
I located the shop, but it was vandalized, and the owner is missing. All I found was your order.
I was afraid of such bad news. People are so desperate they're ready to burgle a shop for drugs.
That's quite a list you ordered. Opium, sodium hypochlorite. It can't be just headaches you're trying to cure.
This dreadful influenza, of course. I already ran some tests on hopeless cases. Without success, I must admit.
Do you realize you could create a lethal poison without the correct dosage? Then there are the legal ramifications.
Is this not true of any medical substance, Dr. Reed? However, if you would agree to improve it, I'd be glad to accept your help.
As long as you promise to be scrupulous with your experiments, I may try to gather these substances, and even help improve upon the mixture.
That's all I'm asking for, Dr. Reed. That's all I'm asking.
I want to know about these secret tests you run, and if they can save people from this epidemic. Speak to me now, Thoreau.
I know I may sound presumptuous, but I'm just following your steps, Dr. Reed. I'm casting away the shadows of ignorance by daring to face them.
Self-confidence is essential in our line of work, my young colleague, but only if tempered with the correct amount of cynicism.
But you never doubt yourself, Dr. Reed. I've read all your articles and books. You performed the most daring research during the war.
You have my support, Dr. Strickland. I know exactly what it feels like to battle an unknown disease, with only your mind and force of will to help you.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. You don't know what that means to me.
Goodbye, Doc. I can't let Strickland put his patients at risk with opium. Perhaps an adjusted formula will deliver more of a placebo effect.
Circumstances, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Goodbye.
I will not let you down, my boy.
Good evening, Doctor.
Can you tell me anything about recent events?
Oh, goodness me. This whole story is such a shame, sir. I have no idea how it happened.
What are you talking about?
Poor Miss Jones. Her body is missing. Someone stole it.
What?
Who could have stolen a corpse?
That's exactly what I asked myself for the whole day. Who could do such a thing? These are terrible and shameful times, Dr. Reed.
Miss Jones's body has gone missing.
Yes. The body was brought here this morning, and now it's gone.
Goodbye.
We'll hit this place, then we'll call it an episode. I already marked it on. Hit this place, then we'll call it an episode.
traces of a pinkish foam at the corner of the lips. Some sort of drug overdose, perhaps? The chest was originally opened to perform the operation. The sutures are clean, but the chest has been reopened. Multiple abrasions and scarring on the arms and legs. Old and distinctive. A puncture over the left lung, possibly a chest tube insertion. Not the cleanest work, but I think it was successful. Signs of internal bleeding. So, Dr. Tippett's anesthetics were incorrectly dosed, causing the patient's death. And then, he tried to operate on him again. Tippett has made an egregious error. It's locked.
Did get the tickets information. Once this loading screen is done, I'm gonna call it. No, not I didn't know